Hello everyone, welcome back to Talk Fluent. We're so happy you're spending some time with us today. Whether you're listening on your way to work, relaxing at home, or practicing your English during a study break, thank you for being here. Every episode is designed to help you sound more natural, more confident, and more like a real English speaker in everyday conversations.
Hey everyone, it's awesome to have you back. We've got a fun topic today because it's something that confuses almost every English learner at some point. Even people with pretty advanced English sometimes mix these words up. So if you've ever wondered which one should I use, don't worry, you're definitely not alone.
Oh, I remember when I was helping one of my friends practice English. She looked at a beautiful sunset and said, "I recognized it's getting dark." I knew exactly what she meant, but that wasn't the natural word. We laughed about it, and it reminded me that some English words seem similar, but they each have their own job.
Exactly, today we're talking about three tricky words: notice, realize, and recognize. They may look alike in meaning, but they're used in completely different situations. Once you understand the difference, you'll hear these words everywhere. In movies, TV shows, podcasts, conversations with friends, and even at work.
By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly when to use notice, when to use realize, and when to use recognize. You'll also learn common expressions, natural American English examples, and the mistakes that many learners make. Our goal isn't just to help you memorize definitions. We want you to use these words confidently in real conversations.
Before we jump in, we'd love to hear from you. Which of these three words confuses you the most? Notice, realize, or recognize? Leave your answer in the comments. And if you already know one of them well, write an example sentence too. We'd love to read it.
That's right, the comments are one of the best places to practice. Don't worry about making mistakes. Every sentence you write helps you improve. If you're enjoying learning with us, please take a second to like this episode, subscribe to Talk Fluent, and share it with a friend who's learning English too. It really helps our channel grow and lets us create even more lessons like this.
All right, are you ready? Grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's finally stop confusing notice, realize, and recognize. Let's jump into the first lesson.
Today, let's start with the most common word of the three, notice. The easiest way to remember it is this: you notice something with your eyes, ears, or other senses. It's about becoming aware of something because you see it, hear it, smell it, or feel it. A simple pattern is subject plus notice plus object. For example, I noticed a new coffee shop. She noticed a strange smell. We noticed that the room was very quiet. In all of these examples, something caught your attention.
That's a great way to think about it. Here are a few everyday examples you'll hear in real American English. I noticed you got a haircut. Did you notice the new menu? He noticed someone waving at him. I didn't notice my phone was on silent. We noticed that everyone had already left. See how every example is about becoming aware of something. It's usually something your senses pick up.
Exactly, imagine you're walking into your favorite grocery store. Suddenly you see that everything has been moved around. You might say, "I noticed they changed the layout." Or maybe you're talking to a friend and you hear them coughing all day. Later you ask, "I noticed you've been coughing. Are you feeling okay?" That's how people naturally use notice every day.
Here's a question for you. If your friend wears brand new sneakers today, what could you say? You could say, "Hey, I noticed your new sneakers." That's much more natural than using realize or recognize.
Now let's move to realize. This word is completely different. You realize something in your mind. It's about understanding something, often after thinking about it or after getting new information. A simple pattern is subject plus realize plus that plus sentence. For example, I realized I forgot my keys. She realized she was late. They realized the answer wasn't correct. Notice that these examples aren't about seeing something. They're about understanding something.
Listen to these real-life examples. I suddenly realized I left my wallet at home. We realized this restaurant closes at 9. He realized he needed more practice. I didn't realize you lived nearby. Oh wow, I just realized today's Friday. These are all moments when new understanding suddenly appears in your mind.
Here's a situation almost everyone has experienced. You're halfway to work and then it hits you. "Oh no, I realized I forgot to lock the front door." You didn't notice it, you didn't recognize it. You realized it because your brain suddenly connected the information.
Great example. Now let's look at our third word, recognize. This means you already knew something before and now you identify it again. The pattern is simple: subject plus recognize plus object. For example, I recognized her voice. He recognized his old teacher. We recognized the song immediately. It's all about identifying someone or something you've seen, heard, or known before.
Think about watching an old movie. An actor appears on the screen and you say, "Wait, I recognize him." That means you've seen him before, but maybe you can't remember where. Or imagine hearing your mom call your name from another room. Even if you can't see her, you immediately recognize her voice. That's because it's already familiar to you.
Let's compare all three with one simple situation. You're walking through an airport. First, you notice someone waving, then you get closer and recognize it's your cousin. A few seconds later, you realize today's the day they were supposed to arrive. See how all three words can happen in the same situation, but each one has a different meaning.
I love that example because it shows the order naturally. First, your senses notice something, then your memory helps you recognize it. Finally, your brain realizes what it means. Now here's a quick challenge for everyone listening. Can you make one sentence with notice, one with realize, and one with recognize? Write your answers in the comments. Don't worry if they're not perfect, we'll be cheering you on.
Before we move on, here's one last tip. Notice is about your senses, realize is about your understanding, and recognize is about identifying something that's already familiar. Keep those three ideas in your mind, and you'll already sound much more natural in real English conversations.
Now that you know the basic difference, let's make these three words sound even more natural in real conversations. Knowing the definition is helpful, but using the right word at the right moment is what makes your English sound fluent. Here's something interesting. In everyday American English, native speakers often use these three words within the same conversation because each one describes a different step in what they're experiencing.
That's true. Let's imagine we're at a neighborhood barbecue. I walk into the backyard and say, I noticed someone grilling burgers. A few seconds later, I look closer and say, wait, I recognize that guy from high school. Then I suddenly remember something and say, oh, I just realized I forgot to bring the drinks. 3 different moments, 3 different verbs.
Exactly, here's another everyday situation. Imagine you're shopping at the mall. You notice there's a huge sale sign in a store window. Then you recognize one of your coworkers walking toward you. A minute later, you realize your wallet is still sitting on your kitchen table. That's exactly how these words naturally work together.
Here's another conversation. I noticed you seemed a little tired today. Yeah, I didn't realize I only slept 4 hours. Really? I didn't recognize you at first because you're usually so energetic. That sounds completely natural because each verb has its own purpose.
Let's talk about something learners often ask. Can you say, I realized your new haircut? Not really. If you simply see the haircut, you'd normally say, I noticed your new haircut. If you suddenly understand that the haircut makes you look younger, then you could say, I realized your haircut makes you look younger. See the difference? One is about seeing, the other is about understanding.
Great point. Now what about recognize? Let's say someone changes their hairstyle completely. You might say, I almost didn't recognize you. Americans say this all the time. It doesn't mean you forgot who they are forever. It simply means they looked different enough that it took you a moment to identify them.
That's a very common expression. Here's another one you'll hear often. I recognized your voice immediately. Even if you can't see the person, their voice is familiar, so you recognize it. Notice how we don't normally say, I realized your voice. That doesn't sound natural unless you're talking about understanding something related to the voice.
Let's compare formal and informal English for a moment. In casual conversation, Americans often say, I just realized. I just noticed. I recognized him right away. These sound friendly and natural. In more formal situations, you might hear, we have realized that sales increased. The witness recognized the suspect. The inspector noticed several problems. The meanings stay exactly the same, but the situations become more professional.
Here's a quick practice activity. I'll describe a situation and you choose the correct verb. Situation 1. You're reading an email and suddenly understand that the meeting starts an hour earlier than you thought. Would you use notice, realize, or recognize? The answer is, realize. You suddenly understood new information. Situation 2. You see smoke coming from the kitchen. Which verb fits? That's notice because your eyes detect something. Situation 3. You see your elementary school teacher after 20 years. Which verb? That's recognize because you identify someone you already know.
Nice, let's make it a little harder. First tip, ask yourself, am I using my senses? If yes, notice is probably the right choice. Second tip, ask yourself, did I suddenly understand something? If yes, use realize. Third tip, ask yourself, have I seen or known this before? If yes, use recognize. These 3 questions can help you choose the correct word almost every time.
I have another fun challenge for everyone listening. Think about something that happened today. Maybe you noticed something unusual on your way to work. Maybe you realized you forgot someone's birthday. Or maybe you recognized a song playing in a coffee shop. Write 1 or 2 of those sentences in the comments. Real-life examples are the best way to remember new vocabulary.
And don't forget to say your sentences out loud too. Speaking helps train your brain much faster than silent reading. The more you use notice, realize, and recognize in real conversations, the more automatic they'll become. That's the goal, not memorizing rules, but communicating naturally and confidently every day.
We've covered the meanings and how these words work together, so now let's focus on using them naturally in everyday life. This is where many English learners begin to sound more like native speakers. It's not just about choosing the correct word, it's also about choosing the right tone. Let's start with notice in social situations. Imagine your friend walks into a room wearing a brand new jacket. You smile and say, "Hey, I noticed your new jacket, it looks great." That sounds friendly because you're showing that you pay attention to other people.
Absolutely, Americans often use notice as a compliment. I noticed you've been working really hard. I noticed your presentation was excellent. I noticed you've gotten a lot more confident. These sentences make people feel appreciated because you're recognizing their effort or a positive change.
That's a great point, but there's another side to it. Sometimes saying "I noticed" can sound a little too personal if you're talking about something sensitive. For example, "I noticed you've gained weight." Grammatically, it's correct. Socially, it can make someone uncomfortable. Instead, if you want to be polite, you might simply avoid commenting unless the person brings it up first. Learning English isn't only about grammar. It's also about understanding what's appropriate in different situations.
Exactly, context matters. Here's another example. I noticed you seemed a little quiet today. Is everything okay? That sounds caring because you're showing concern instead of making a judgment. Your tone makes a huge difference. The same words can sound kind or rude depending on how you say them.
Now let's move to realize. One reason this verb is so common is because it helps us admit mistakes or discover something new. For example, I just realized I sent the email to the wrong person. We realized we were at the wrong restaurant. They realized the project needed more time. These are all moments of understanding.
Native speakers also use realize to express emotions. I didn't realize how much I missed my family. I never realized how beautiful this city is. I realized how important exercise is. Notice that these aren't just facts. They're personal discoveries. That's why realize often appears in conversations about feelings and life experiences.
That's true. Now let's look at recognize in everyday conversations. Sometimes you don't recognize a face. Sometimes you don't recognize a voice. Sometimes you don't even recognize a place because it has changed so much. For example, I hardly recognized our old neighborhood. There are so many new buildings now. Or I recognized that song after just 2 seconds. That's because it was already stored in your memory.
Here's another expression Americans use a lot. You look so different, I almost didn't recognize you. People say this after someone gets a new hairstyle, grows a beard, wears glasses, or even loses weight. It's usually meant as a friendly comment.
Let's do a quick mini conversation. I'll start. I noticed someone sitting at our usual table.
Really, did you recognize them?
At first, no, then I recognized my old college roommate.
Wow, and then?
Then I realized today was the anniversary of our graduation. See how naturally all three verbs fit into one conversation.
Here's another practice. Imagine you're at the airport, you see a woman waving. First, you notice someone waving, then you get closer and recognize your aunt. A minute later, you realize she's here a day earlier than expected. That's exactly how these verbs describe three different moments.
Here's another helpful tip. When you're speaking English, don't translate directly from your first language. Instead, ask yourself three simple questions. First, did my eyes or ears detect something? Use notice. Second, did my brain suddenly understand something? Use realize. Third, did I identify someone or something familiar? Use recognize. Those three questions will help you choose the correct verb much faster.
I love that, and here's something I'd like everyone listening to do. Think about yesterday. Can you remember one thing you noticed, one thing you realized, and one person or thing you recognized? Say all three sentences out loud first. Then write them in the comments. We'd really enjoy reading your examples, and you'll help other learners by sharing real situations.
Remember, fluency doesn't come from memorizing hundreds of grammar rules. It comes from using simple words correctly again and again in everyday conversations. The more you practice these three verbs in real situations, the more natural they'll become.
Exactly, keep listening, keep speaking, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every conversation is another chance to improve. Now that you know how these verbs work in everyday English, it's time to look at the mistakes that almost every learner makes, and more importantly, how to avoid them.
All right, let's talk about something every English learner experiences, making mistakes. Honestly, both of us have mixed up English words before, especially when we were learning new expressions. So if you've ever confused notice, realize, and recognize, don't feel bad. It's completely normal, and today we're going to fix those mistakes together.
Exactly, the good news is that once you understand why a mistake happens, you're much less likely to make it again. So let's look at some of the most common errors and replace them with natural American English.
Mistake number 1, using recognize when you should use notice. Here's the incorrect sentence. I recognized your new shoes. Now, could someone understand you? Probably. But if you're simply seeing your friend's shoes for the first time today, native speakers would usually say, I noticed your new shoes. Why? Because the shoes aren't something you're identifying from memory. They're simply catching your attention.
Here's another example. Incorrect. I recognized that the lights were off. Correct. I noticed that the lights were off. You're becoming aware of the lights. You're not identifying something familiar. Now compare that with, I recognized the house. That's correct because you've seen that house before. See the difference.
Mistake number 2, using notice instead of realize. Many learners say, I noticed I forgot my wallet. Native speakers almost always say, I realized I forgot my wallet. Why? Because forgetting your wallet isn't something your eyes suddenly see. It's something your brain suddenly understands. That's an important difference.
Here's another one. Incorrect. I noticed I was wrong. Correct. I realized I was wrong. You reached a new understanding. That's exactly what realize is for. Try saying both sentences out loud. Which one sounds more natural? You'll probably hear the difference immediately.
Mistake number 3, using realize instead of recognize. Listen to this sentence. I realized my old teacher at the supermarket. That doesn't work because you're talking about identifying a person. The natural sentence is, I recognized my old teacher at the supermarket. You're connecting today's face with a memory from the past. That's recognition, not realization.
Here's another comparison. Incorrect. I realized your voice. Correct. I recognized your voice. But if you suddenly understand who called you, you could naturally say, I realized it was you. See how both verbs can appear in the same situation but describe different moments. First you recognize the voice, then you realize who's calling or why they're called.
Mistake number 4, thinking these words are interchangeable. They're not. Let's compare them side by side. I noticed someone at the door. You became aware of a person. I recognized my neighbor. You identified who that person was. I realized he came to return my book. Now you understand the reason. 3 different verbs, 3 different meanings, 1 natural conversation.
Here's a fun little story. Imagine I walk into a coffee shop. First, I notice someone smiling at me, then I recognize my old basketball coach. A few seconds later, I realize today's the day we plan to meet. That's exactly how these verbs naturally work together.
I love that example because it's easy to picture. Now here's a quick practice for everyone listening. I'll read an incorrect sentence and you try to fix it before I give the answer. Ready. I recognized that my phone battery was almost dead. The better answer is, I noticed that my phone battery was almost dead. Next one. I noticed I left my passport at home. Correct answer. I realized I left my passport at home. One more. I realized my cousin at the airport. The natural sentence is, I recognized my cousin at the airport. How did you do? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to know how many you got right.
And remember, don't be afraid to make mistakes when you practice. Nobody becomes fluent without making them. Every time you catch yourself using the wrong verb and correct it, you're building stronger English habits. Keep practicing these 3 words in your daily conversations. Before long, choosing between notice, realize, and recognize will feel completely natural. In our final activity, we'll put everything together with a fun speaking challenge so you can test yourself in real-life situations before we wrap up today's episode.
It's time for our final speaking challenge. This is one of my favorite parts because you're not just listening anymore, you're thinking and speaking in English. I'll give you a situation with 2 choices. Pause for a second, say your answer out loud, and then we'll explain why it's correct.
Remember, don't rush. Native speakers don't think about grammar rules every time they speak. They build habits through practice, and that's exactly what we're doing today.
Situation number 1, you see your coworker wearing a brand new watch. Which sentence sounds natural? Option A, I noticed your new watch. Option B, I realized your new watch. The correct answer is option A. You can actually see the watch, so you're becoming aware of it with your eyes.
You could even make it friendlier by saying, hey, I noticed your new watch. It looks awesome. That's a natural compliment you'll hear in everyday American English.
Situation number 2, you're halfway to the airport when it suddenly hits you that your passport is still at home. Option A, I recognized I forgot my passport. Option B, I realized I forgot my passport. The correct answer is option B. This is a sudden understanding, so realized is exactly the right choice.
Americans often add the word just. I just realized I forgot my passport. That sounds even more natural in conversation.
Situation number 3, you see someone across the street and after looking carefully you know it's your childhood friend. Option A, I recognized my childhood friend. Option B, I noticed my childhood friend. The best answer is option A, you're identifying someone you already know.
Of course, both verbs can sometimes appear together. I noticed someone across the street and then I recognized my childhood friend. That's exactly how native speakers tell stories.
Situation number 4. You're watching a movie and suddenly a song starts playing. You immediately know you've heard it before. Which sentence sounds best? Option A, I recognize that song immediately. Option B, I realize that song immediately. The correct answer is option A, because you're identifying something familiar.
Great job. Now here's your biggest challenge. Create 3 sentences about your own life. One with notice, one with realize, and one with recognize. Say them out loud first, then write them in the comments. Real examples from your own life are the fastest way to make these words part of your everyday vocabulary.
Before we finish, let's review everything one last time. If something catches your attention through your senses, use notice. If you suddenly understand something, use realize. If you identify someone or something you've known before, use recognize. Keep asking yourself those 3 simple questions whenever you're unsure, and choosing the correct verb will become much easier.
Today we covered 3 important ideas. First, we learned that notice is about becoming aware of something through your senses. Second, we learned that realize is about reaching a new understanding. Third, we learned that recognize is about identifying someone or something that's already familiar. Those 3 ideas will help you sound much more natural in real conversations.
And remember, becoming fluent isn't about speaking perfect English every single time. It's about communicating clearly, learning from your mistakes, and practicing a little every day. Every sentence you speak, every comment you write, and every conversation you have is another step toward confidence. If today's lesson helped you, please give this video a thumbs up, share it with another English learner, and subscribe to Talk Fluent so you never miss a new episode. We'd also love to hear from you, so tell us in the comments. Which of these 3 words was the trickiest before today's lesson, and can you write one sentence using each verb?
Thanks so much for spending your time with us today. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and most importantly, don't be afraid to use your English in real life. We're proud of the progress you're making, and we're excited to keep learning with you. Take care, keep talking, and see you next time.